Hi, I'm C.C. Péan, and this is Reclaiming Your Health. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Reclaiming Your Health. I am your host, C.C. Péan. I am in my apartment in Miami, and unfortunately, I'm not able to cook this week, but I thought that I would take this time to go over a few tools and tips. Cooking is such an intimate experience, and for me personally, cooking is the way, I think my most effective, most efficient way of showing love. And so when I cook, I'm constantly thinking of ways to make food better, to make it healthier, to cut out unnecessary steps, things like that. Of course, to make it healthier. And so I thought I would share some of the little things that I do that I think sets my food apart. And also, I want to talk to you about some tools. If you're putting together your kitchen, if you're a new cook, if you're transitioning into plant-based cooking, these are some of the tools that I use every single day. And they make cooking plant-based so much easier. And I also am going to talk to you about things like cookware, because you don't want to be cooking a beautiful lentil stew in a Teflon pan because you're ingesting those toxins. So cooking is not only, when we're cooking a delicious, healthy, plant-based food, we're not only talking about what products we're buying. We're buying organic. Buying organic produce, especially if it is something that you bite right into. For example, berries. Those need to be organic. Anything that you don't have to peel, okay? So we're not only talking about the foods that we purchase, we're talking about how we prepare them. The cookware that we use also plays a role. And that's something that I realized that I hadn't touched on with you all, and so I'm doing it today. So the first thing I want to talk to you all about are oils. I quite often I get questions about oils, which are the best oils. And I think we touched on this a little bit a couple weeks ago. But there are all these oils out here now, and you start to hear, you're bombarded with this particular type of oil is the best type of oil. And so you go to the store and all of a sudden everything has this particular oil. It's kind of like the joke with gluten-free, that you'll go into the produce department now and they'll have gluten-free on a banana. Gluten comes from wheat. But they know that those are catchwords. They know that these are things that people are looking for. So they push that. So I want you all to stop and think about, okay, this thing is being pushed, but is this the best for me? So let's talk about oils. One of the oils that gets the greatest hype is coconut oil. Okay. Coconut oil is a tricky oil because, number one, it's 90% saturated fat. That's a lot. That's more than butter. Butter is like 64%. Animal fat from animal protein, I think, is like 45%. Saturated fat, 90% in coconut oil. Another high one is palm oil, which 34% I think is high, 90% is really high. So the thing about coconut oil is coconut oil can go two ways. Coconut oil can help increase your good cholesterol, but it can also affect your bad cholesterol too if you have too much of it. So I often, I'm looking at recipes, I'm trying to get ideas, and I'll see somebody frying something in coconut oil. No. I think if you use coconut oil, it should be sparingly, especially if you have any kind of heart condition, because saturated fat is not good for you. The good that you get from coconut oil does not offset it to the point where you can use it liberally. Okay, so that's my opinion on coconut oil. And you can research it yourself, but it is 90% saturated fat. Another oil that is very popular because it's antioxidant rich. It's an oil that on my dad's side of on my father's side of the family, palm oil is something that's used like every single day. It's very big in West Africa. It's got a very distinct flavor to it, and it does have good properties, but it is also 40% saturated fat. So when I cook with palm oil, what I tend to do is I just drizzle it for a little bit of flavor. I don't actually cook with it. In Brazil, they use it like they do in West Africa. It is used liberally. And interestingly enough, it's one of those things that if you're not used to it, it can really give you some digestive issues. So those are the two big ones, coconut oil and palm oil. Avocado oil is a great oil. It has a very high smoke point. I think it's 450 degrees. It is great for your heart health. It is great for brain health. It increases your HDL. And by the way, let me drop this in case you don't know that your total cholesterol should be less than 200. Your HDL should be 50 and higher. Your LDL should be 130 and lower. Okay, so your total should not be over 200. Check with your doctors and see where you are and adjust your diet accordingly. There are so many other oils out there. Let me just look at my notes. There are a lot of nut oils that are really good for you, but they should not be cooked with. These are things you use for like a salad dressing or to drizzle over something. You don't cook those. Those are typically cold pressed, and they're like a topping. They're a drizzle. They're not something that you use to fry in, and they're pretty expensive. So that would be kind of a waste. Let's see what else. I'm going to have to take my glasses off. Flaxseed oil is another great one. Flaxseed oil is something that, if you make, you make your oatmeal in the morning or something like that, it's nice to put a good little drizzle of that. It's really, really good for your cholesterol, also good for your brain health, antioxidant rich, omega-3 rich. Great stuff. Okay, so those are the oils. I want to talk to you about tricks to infuse more flavor into your food. So a lot of times people get flavor from two things that have they either get it from frying. Oh, oil is great. Olive is great. You want it to here's about olive oil. When you buy olive oil, you should always try to buy olive oil come in a clear bottle. Because a lot of times you and you olive oil should have a green to it. Now, depending on olive oil that you buy, sometimes buy like a light olive oil, but you still should be able to see some green. Okay, pure olive oil. You can get some great olive oil at Sprouts, at Whole Foods. You can get it at your grocery store, but I would suggest that you get a bottle that has a clear bottle so you can see what's in it. But olive oil is great. I would say to use that sparingly as well. I use it in my dressings and things like that. If I'm doing some kind of quick saute, I will use olive oil, but not for deep frying. Use other things for deep frying. Okay, so some of my tricks to add flavor. So I was saying that the two ways that you typically get flavor into food is either by frying it or by adding salt. Okay, so we live in a great time where we have this thing called an air fryer. And air fryers, if you take your time, if you try little different techniques and tips, you can have a very crispy, delicious item without the fat. So air fryer is something that I really encourage people to buy. Because they're all the rage, you can get them relatively inexpensive. And, so get an inexpensive one and try it out. And if you want to kick it up a notch and get a more expensive one, do it. But they're a great thing to have. French fries, for example. Every once in a while, I like French fries, but I don't fat fry them. I put them in my air fryer. I turn that puppy up to 400 degrees, about 10, 12 minutes. Every few minutes, I shake my basket. They come out crispy and delicious without the extra fat. So air fryers are great. Another thing that I do is I use a lot of broths. If I'm cooking something as simple as rice, brown rice, I will use vegetable broth. I will sometimes even take my Magic Bullet or my Vitamix, and I will put my broth in there, a couple cloves of garlic, some fresh herbs, and I will turn it up and I'll blend it all together so that it's completely liquefied. Then I use that in my rice. So the end result is rice that is deliciously seasoned because the garlic is able to really get in there. The herbs are able to get in there, and then you've got the flavor from the broth. Okay, so that's a great way to add flavor. If you're fixing noodles, do the same thing. Use broth. Now, you don't have to go to a store to buy broth. You can make your own. If you've got the ends of your onions and the ends of your celery and your parsley, all those things that you don't use in your dish, rinse those off really well. You can put that in a big pot with some filtered water, let it come to a boil, skim off any foam at the top, let it cool, take those things out, let it cool, get some containers or some bags, Ziploc bags, portion it out, put it in your freezer. There goes some homemade vegetable broth. You don't have to worry about ingredients in there that you don't want. You don't have to guess what's in there. You can add the amount of salt that you want, and you would be surprised how much flavor you will get. So your onions, your garlic, your celery, your parsley, if you have carrot ends, all of those things are great to go into a pot with filtered water or spring water. Bring it to a boil, skim off the foam at the top, take that stuff out, let it cool, and you've got homemade broth. Okay? That's a great tip. So the other thing that you can do is on my West Indian side, there's this thing called green seasoning, and it goes in virtually everything. This is something else I do. So I will take onion and garlic and culantro, parsley, bell pepper, whatever I want, all of these different aromatic herbs and all these different things. I will pulse them in my food processor. I take an ice tray and I take I think it's probably about 2 or 3 tablespoons that can fit in there. And I take tablespoon after tablespoon and I fill that up, put it in the freezer, let it freeze. When it's frozen, I take my same Ziploc bag and I put those cubes in there. Now, when I'm ready to fix a pot of beans or something like that, I turn on the fire, I throw that cube in there, and I've got all this delicious flavor ready to go. And one of the things that I constantly emphasize on reclaiming your health is building layers of flavor. And why do I say that? When you build layers of flavor, salt is just the touch at the end. Salt is not an integral ingredient, okay? So we're getting away from using a lot of salt and oil and fat and things like that. Let me actually go back to the thing about oil. I have shared with you all that a great thing that we have access to now is spray oil. It's great. I have avocado oil spray. I have coconut oil spray. That is a great way to take advantage of the good things of these oils sparingly, not going overboard. So when I use my coconut oil, I do a quick spray, and then I get on to doing whatever I'm doing. And if I need a little more, I need a little more. But I'm not using tablespoons full of oil. So remember that. Sprays are great. I told you about my rice, how I use my herbs and my broth and things like that. Okay, so now I want to talk to you all about, oh, here's a trick. My aunt taught me this. If you ever have some oil and you've used it to fry something, and you used it once or twice, and you want to try to use your oil again, but it has a little of an odor to it, and you don't want that odor or that flavor to pass on to whatever you're frying or you're cooking, cue the cinnamon sticks. My aunt taught me this when she was here, and it blew my mind. Did you know if you have oil that has scent or flavor to it, and you take 2 cinnamon sticks, drop it in the oil, in under a minute, all the flavor and all of the odor is gone. You can also use cloves, but cloves tend to give off a little flavor, and cloves is nothing to play around with. The cinnamon is great because it leaves a trace. It doesn't taste like cinnamon, doesn't smell like cinnamon, but whatever oil you have, Stanley, you have the picture of the cinnamon sticks? Whatever oil you have, those 2 cinnamon sticks will get rid of the flavor and the smell. Great tip. That's like an old country tip. Okay, so I want to talk to you now about cookware. As I was saying earlier, it makes no sense to go out and buy the best ingredients, go through all of this prep of preparing and et cetera, and then you cook in something that is toxic. Okay, so what are the good pots to use? What's the best cookware? The best cookware is actually cast iron, enamel, ceramic, and stainless steel. Okay? The absolute worst thing for you to buy to use to cook is Teflon. Teflon is toxic. And, I remember coming up when I, would go to buy a little pot for my apartment or something like that. I'd go to Target or I'd go to Walmart, and I saw something that said Teflon, non-stick. And it was like $12.99. I'm buying it. I had no clue that that is actually toxic. So if you have anything with Teflon, do not use it. Get rid of it. And what makes matters worse is oftentimes people will use these coated pots and pans with metal or stainless steel spoons. So while you're cooking, you're literally you're scraping off the coating into your food. I've been to people's homes and I've seen pots that at one time had a coating on it and it's completely gone because you should have been using a wood spoon or a hard plastic spoon, hard plastic or rubber. But anyway, Teflon is a no-no. The best pots are cast iron, ceramic, enamel, stainless steel. And one of the reasons people like, non-stick Teflon is because nothing really sticks to it. You have to take time with your food. Did you know that your food, when it's ready, it will release from the pan? So if you're using a stainless steel pan and you're cooking something and you don't have the heat all the way up, but you're cooking it like a medium-high heat, when it's done, it will easily come off the pan. Using these non-stick, like the cooking sprays, the cooking coconut oil and avocado oil and things like that, those will also help. But just be patient with your food. Don't be impatient. Use something that's non-stick and toxic. Okay? So, what do you suggest as a replacement for rice and other starches? One of the things that I love to use is quinoa. Quinoa is great because your body digests it differently than it does. It actually registers in your body kind of like broccoli, like a complex carb. So quinoa is great. Wild rice is also wonderful because wild rice is actually a grass. It's not rice. So that's why it tends to be really kind of, fibrous and kind of tougher. But that's a great thing to use the broth with. I would say use broth to get some real flavor into that wild rice, but wild rice is a great substitute. There are a lot of things on the market now. There's a garbanzo bean rice. There are a lot of different things. We're living in a great time, really, when it comes to alternatives for our food. So I would go to Sprouts, or even our local markets like Publix and Kroger's. I'm really surprised. They've got really great options now. They know that people are looking for it, so they have them. I wouldn't use oil more than twice. I wouldn't use it more than twice, because when you're frying oil, especially when you're frying, you're getting up to pretty high temperatures. And so I would not use it more than once. So that's why I shared that tip. I wouldn't use it I wouldn't use it more than twice. Yeah, I wouldn't use it more than twice. So use it. I would strain it and get off any sediment that's left from the other, for what you did before, and then use it one more time. If you've got any flavor or odor, then you use your cinnamon sticks. You give it a cast iron. Yeah, cast iron is great. And let me tell you, you can go to Home Goods. I love Home Goods. Home Goods always has Lodge cast iron or enamel coated pots for great prices. They're kind of like these off colors and stuff, but they are great products. They clean up very, very easily. Cast iron is not only great to cook with, but you actually get some nutritional benefits from it because of the iron. So those are great. Let's see. Let's talk about tools in the kitchen. My favorite tool in the kitchen is my Vitamix. But everybody doesn't want a Vitamix. It might be a little pricey for some. I've had mine. Wow, I think I've had mine for about 6-7 years now. I got it at Costco. Vitamixes are great because whatever you put inside of it is going to be blended and broken down. However, there are other alternatives. I really love my NutriBullet. There are times when I don't want to bring out my big carafe and dirty it up. And to be honest with you, sometimes I'm not blending that much. So it would kind of be problematic to do it in my Vitamix. So I use my NutriBullet. NutriBullets nowadays have so many different attachments to it. It's a great tool to have. You can get it for about $100 pretty much anywhere. You can look on Amazon for it or eBay for it. They're great to have. They sit in the corner. If you want to do a smoothie in the morning, you can use that. If you want to do, like I said, the broth with the herbs and the garlic, that's enough. You're not, I don't know if you're cooking more than 2 or 3 cups of rice. So that's plenty right there. And you can just drop, when you're done, you just drop a little bit of soap in there, a little bit of water, put it back on there, and it's clean. Rinse it out and you're done. So I love my bullet. So number 1, I would say, if you want to swing for the fences, it is the Vitamix. Number 2 is the bullet. I also have an immersion blender that I really, really like. Stan, do you have that picture? The immersion blender is a great tool because it gets the job done with in a container with no mess. If you want to make a single cup of soup for yourself, and say you've done, you've steamed, or you have let's see what he's saying. You steamed or you've roasted your veggies, your squash, and you want to do a really quick soup, but you don't want to have a lot left over. Let's see what he's saying. Okay. We were having, we were having, so I don't know if you all caught the information about the clear bottles. I'm just going to go back because I want to make sure you got that. Buy oil, make sure you look for a clear bottle so you see the quality of the olive oil. Their olive oil is 100% pure and it's great and it's all of that. Take your hand to your hand. So look for a clear bottle so you can see the greenness. The greenness indicates the quality of the olive oil. Okay. The other thing I need to bring up again is the cinnamon. If you're using oil and you use it again, one of the best ways to get the odor and the flavor of whatever you fried before out of that oil is to simply put that oil on the fire, drop 2 cinnamon sticks in there. In about a minute's time, all of the flavor and all of the odor will transfer to those cinnamon sticks. Dump them and keep cooking like nothing ever happened. Cinnamon sticks are good. Okay. The immersion blender, the hand blender is great. These are things that you can get, hand blenders are great for doing, whipped potatoes, sweet potatoes. If you want to whip them, they're great. You put them in there, you put a little bit of your earth balance in your bowl, and you get that blender and you whip it up, and you've got light, fluffy, delicious, heart healthy, nutrient dense whipped sweet potatoes. So these are things that you buy so that your meal, that you're not only cooking this delicious meal, but you're enjoying it and you're presenting it a certain way. We eat with our eyes, and that's not only for when you're cooking for other people. You should do it for yourself as well. When you're getting ready to eat dinner, you should set a beautiful plate for yourself. Thank God for the bounty that you're about to eat and enjoy your meal. Too many of us eat sitting in front of the TV or in the car or on the run. We need to sit down and take time, nourish our bodies, and enjoy ourselves. A mandolin. What is my favorite go-to seasoning that you should always keep on hand? Well, avocado spices, if I do say so myself. No, honestly, I think some of the best spices I have are all salt-free, but they're things like garlic powder, onion powder. I like smoked paprika. I love that. I don't use liquid smoke because it kind of has a synthetic taste to me, but I love smoked paprika. Just a touch of that on anything that's kind of creamy is delicious. Nutmeg is also something that is really, really good. You have to use it sparingly, but I would say that those are my favorite spices. Let's see what else. I would say that's it. I have a mushroom salt that I really like that you can buy at Asian markets. I'll be sure to share a picture so that you all can look for it. I think you can buy it online as well. I really like that because it really adds this depth of flavor with just a pinch. So those are my favorites. Another tool to have is a mandolin. But if you use a mandolin, be sure to use the protective glove or the protective guard. mandolin. I love mandolins because they make your job in the kitchen so much easier. You can do things very quickly and everything is consistent. And one of the things you all always hear me talk about as well is the importance of cutting things evenly and consistently so that they cook evenly and consistently. And so you end up with a delicious dish that is cooked evenly and consistently, and it looks good. So we don't want a big chunk of something and a little chunk of something. We want to take our time to prep our ingredients that are going to go into these dishes. And the last thing that I will say that you should get is a juicer. Juicers as well. There are so many different ones out there. Figure out, you're welcome, Melissa. Figure out which one, what you need it for. Are you going to be juicing every day? Are you going to be juicing every now and then? I love my Breville juicer. I've had 3 juicers and every single one of them has been a Breville. I don't know what's on the market now, but that's a great thing to have. And then the trash that you get from your juicing, you can always use that to go into your broth, to make your broth. Okay? So those are my tips and my tools and how I make what I make so yummy. And I would love to hear what you adopt and what you start to use to make your dishes delicious and to give you the upper hand as you transition into a plant-based lifestyle. Thank you for joining me this week. I'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.